that was the biggest thing for me, is just like building the trust with them, then like them fully trusting, making sure that I'm like doing this for a reason, not just like I'm not making you wake up early in the morning to go and lift for an hour and then go out to practice later on. Like once that was instilled in their minds and they were like, wow, this is actually like awesome for us, and like they needed this, that's where you build that.
What's going on, Samson Strength Coach Collective listeners? We have another live episode today. It went so well with Zach Hicks last week. We figured why not do another live one, and we are here in Boone, North Carolina with Nick DaCosta, Assistant Strength and Conditioning Coach at Appalachian State University. Nick, thanks for coming on, bro.
Absolutely, brother.
Hey, man, we're stoked to have you, dude. Seriously. First of all, you got to show the listeners your sleeve you're working on here.
So we're working up. We're going to try to do a Japanese-style dragon all the way to the top.
Full strength coach vibes.
Right? Yeah, we're almost done with it. I got the second skin on it right now, and it'll been 14 hours deep and with the sessions and just dropping underneath the needle. So hopefully I can get it done in one more session, but it's coming along well. Yeah.
Did you get the tattoos because you're a strength coach, or did you become a strength coach because you're a tattoo guy?
Honestly, I was kind of a tattoo guy before, but like now I just think it's like, especially with some of my teams, I want to just look like tougher. I want to be like, I want to have them. I'm like, I already got the position. I'm like, we're good now. Anything, it's like one of the professions I think that you can kind of roll with a little bit of tattoos. So I was like, oh, I'm just going to go crazy now. I want to do my back. I'm going to do the rest of this arm. I'm going to do one of my legs. So it's just going to be
knuckles,
maybe, yeah, maybe I'll do something just so I really can just be like, as soon as like a committer or an athlete walks in there, like, yeah, maybe not mess with this guy. But then I'm like a teddy bear. So like, that's what makes it the best part. It's like, I'm going to look tough as all can be, and then I'm gonna be like, oh, there's gonna be like, this guy's cool as hell.
This guy's just
so no, yeah, I think it works with me though.
There you go. I like it. I think it's a good situation. So all right, well, break everything down for us. Okay, so what got you into strength and conditioning, start of your career, and then obviously you've moved up a lot through App State, so we'll talk about that as well too. And then what you're currently doing now.
Yeah, cool. So originally, I just wanted to actually do PT. I wanted to do PT school. I wanted to work more with like an older population. But then I played baseball myself, and I got more in the athlete atmosphere. I went to a couple of private facilities where I got some strength conditioning early on in my career and when I was in high school and stuff. And I was just like, I think this would be like really cool. Like maybe I need to switch over, and like, yeah, the PT side's great for us. Like we want to work with our PTs and everything. But I just don't think I was going to get like the intensity side of it. I wasn't going to get like the grit kind of side of it. And it would kind of be more monotonous with the PT. Like I'm going to see the same people probably every day. Mm-hmm. It'll be like a same population kind of thing where I just want to see like different age groups. I want to see like we get our 18-year-olds coming from high school, going to a freshman year. And then I want to see how I develop them throughout my 4 years, bringing them up to their senior year. So then I was just kind of like, all right, well, maybe I can get into strength conditioning. And then I also thought about AT. So I kind of went like all the routes, and I was just looking at it. I did a big internship in my high school with actually the AT. Worked all the sports teams and stuff, and I was like, all right, this is cool, but I was also like, I don't know if this is like 100% for me, just being like on beckoning call and kind of thing, and just like, I don't know, just wasn't my atmosphere. So then I got into strength conditioning. So I did my undergrad here, and then I did my master's as well, and then I got my internship my last spring that I was here in my senior year, and I got into it. Obviously, you know how interns go. You kind of just like the bottom of the barrel. You're kind of doing everything for them. You're like, all right, maybe I don't want to do this either because I'm doing the pickup duty and picking up all the weights. It was really good though, because like that's where I was going to kind of go with it. We've had two directors through here now, and just like making sure with how I've like built my philosophy on everything too. It's just like the first guy we had here was just really like military kind of style. I had to have my shirt tucked in, no yawning, no gum. If it was cold enough, and it was actually in here, like in the combat weight room, it had to be a certain temperature for you to have to be able to actually wear a jacket. And I was just like, wow, this is it.
How do you gauge the temperature?
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, we're all just like, I'm like almost seeing my breath coming, especially in the wintertime. I'm like, dude, it's cold. It's really cold outside. Like maybe I want to warm up for the first 10, 15 minutes I'm here. So like he was like super, super on top of it, very high standard. It was like the weights and everything, make sure that all the weights are like turned up and all that kind of stuff. But once I got into it, I got a really good relationship with him, and he like other interns didn't get to do as much. And then he kind of took me out as like underneath his wing, kind of let me I worked every single team here too. Mm-hmm. So I got to go and get every aspect of what strength conditioning was, see how the different athletes did their different training programs, training philosophies, and how they just improve their performance overall. And I was just like, oh, cool, this is awesome. Like, I really like this guy. He joked with me. I got past that barrier where it was kind of like the awkward beginning, and just like how he was just like looked at me as just like a subject more than like an actual part of the team kind of thing. So once he got that, and I got that level of respect from him, I think he was really like, okay, I especially was like, I really want to dive into this. And then I got, once I got done with my undergrad, I got into my master's, and that's when I had another director, and he fully installed everything that in terms of my training philosophy and just how I've really just built myself as a person too. Like I started with some of the smaller teams, worked my way up, got with the more of the bigger teams. And then now from here on out, it just felt like it's an awesome experience. And I can't go back on it. I'm just like, I see myself doing this for the rest of my life. And it's changed me as a person. I before was kind of like, I'm goofy, you know, like I'm a goofy guy. So like I came in goofy, came in like, all right, I don't really know what I'm going to do with myself and like how I just want to see this progress over the years. But now it's just really instilled like characterism into me and just made me an overall better person. And now I just think it's like schedule, regimen, making sure that you're staying on top of everything, building good relationships within your staff, and just how that's just like progressed me as a person as well. So going on top of that, and then now I'm here with what I'm doing now. So yeah, it's awesome.
Well, okay, so now correct me if I'm wrong, but your only experience with official internships has been at App State.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so then you went from being an intern to a GA to a full-time strength coach, which is a pretty rare experience. Yeah. Like, you know, I mean, when I think of, I would say maybe 1 out of every 5 or 1 out of every 10 people I talk to have an experience like that, you know, and I consider that to be pretty rare. Like, what do you consider like your qualities or traits if there's a younger strength coach out here listening and hoping to go along the same path?
Yeah.
How do you feel like you were able to do that, going from intern to then GA to full-time strength coach?
And kind of along with just that whole experience I explained, it's just adaptation. Like I think biggest thing you can do as a young person is just being willing to adapt to things. When I came up, like I thought I had my own training philosophy. I was in the CrossFit, I was in the like military style training, but then I switched over and I went more into strength training, and then I got actually into Olympic weightlifting. So like I've totally changed all of my philosophies around of how I want to like program, how I want things. But especially with the first idea, it was like his way or the highway. So like you just got to understand where you're going with the program, and that's the type of programming that the whole kind of philosophy within the strength conditioning staff department works. Build your philosophy, be open to things. This is the biggest thing, is like always make sure you're being open. Like don't just like completely cut off and be like, this is the way I like to do it. And because that doesn't work well sometimes with like coaches and stuff. So like you just want to make sure that you're willing to, the biggest thing is like working with your head coaches in a close relationship and collaborating with them as well. So like if they have input on like how this has worked at this school, it's cool. Like that's great. Like we're App State though. Like that's the biggest thing. You do have to set your boundaries and you have to set your guidelines as well. So making sure that once again, you're in charge of everything, you're in charge of the program, but it's willing to be open towards things and just making sure that the programming gets put together as smoothly as possible, and making sure that you're keeping your athletes healthy, making sure they're improving their performance, and making sure you're doing everything on top of that to work with your ATs, with your PTs, with your head coaches, and make sure that everything is working as one. Because if you start getting little leak holes here and there, then that's where you can kind of lose your sight for what you want to your overall goals to be.
Yeah, and then the athletes are the ones who see the negative effects of that.
Yeah, and that's exactly right.
Yeah. Okay, and so what was the first ever team that you officially had? Like that was your team?
The first ever team was cheerleading.
Cheerleading. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
So then walk me through your thought process. Like, okay, first ever time having a team, you have cheerleading.
Yeah.
And then now, right, you just started working with wrestling here too, just filling in for them, and then hopefully progressing along with them, right? Like, how was your first ever session with cheerleading, your thoughts going into it versus now a couple more years of experience working with wrestling for the first time? You know, what was the difference between those two?
And complete honesty, it was a shit show. Like, I'm going to be completely honest. That's how it was. It was a huge team.
Yeah.
I was working underneath other GAs during the time when I was in my internship. And even when I was a GA, I was still working along with other ones for the bigger teams. And with cheerleading, you get like 50 of them, like 50 or 60 sometimes. And breaking those either into 2 different lift groups or just breaking them into how you want it to look throughout the program and based off of their position and stuff like that too, for flyers, bases and stuff like that, just distinguishing individualization of the program. It was just a lot. Like coming into something like, all right, you guys were kind of like always like the second guy, and you would be like, yes, I'm coaching. Yes, I'm doing part of the programming and stuff like that. But now having a full head of 50 people that are all ranges of training, like experience too. Like some of the guys, great. Some of the girls also fantastic, but some of them have never touched a weight in their entire life. And you're like, all right, how do I adapt to this? How do I like get them to really like this program? Also, the biggest thing for them is just like, they think it's just skill. Like all they think is just like, hey, I'm only going to work on my skill. That's the only thing I need. I don't really need to train outside of that. But then once you get them really trusting you and really getting like bought into your own program and how it's going to improve their performance out there and make them stronger, make them better, keep them healthy, that was the biggest thing for me, is just like building the trust with them, like them fully trusting, making sure that I'm like doing this for a reason, not just like I'm not making you wake up early in the morning to come and lift for an hour and then go out to practice later on. Like once that was instilled in their minds and they were like, wow, this is actually like awesome for us, and like they needed this, that's where you build that. And then after that, that's where honestly I think that for especially interns and GAs is one of the best teams you can give to them, just because it teaches them how to deal with such a big population. Because once they get down to teams, like my field hockey team is only 20 people. Like once I got like 20 and below, I'm like, oh, this is cheese. Like this is so easy. Like I can do this. I can individualize. I'm one-on-one coaching a lot better. Like the biggest thing is like bouncing around, making sure everything's done correctly, making sure that all your aspects of your program are getting done the way that you want it to get done, and making sure they're doing correctly. Is like, it's hard. And that's where you might have other people you might want to bring interns on or GAs with yourself, just so you have more eyes on the floor. But just handling that, it was just by myself. So just handling that by myself and breaking them up and making sure they were getting everything they needed it was a big challenge.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. I agree wholeheartedly on the cheerleading piece. And like, I think back to my first ever sport was football, right? So we're working with 50 guys in the room at a time. And then sometimes it's 120 if everybody's coming in. And I specifically remember like one of my first ever mentors screaming at me because I wasn't able to look at 3 racks at the same time. Right. Like, and he was like, you have to be able to do this. Like, this is a skill you have to acquire. And then obviously first ever full-time team I had was cheerleading as well too, which I highly recommend for any GA starting out, because again, it's a group, like you said, that you have to develop buy-in. You have to make sure that they know there's an importance behind what they're doing. And it's still a large group where you have to figure out a lot of stuff quickly. And then now finally down to basketball, like, you know, if we have everybody in, it's 15 guys.
Exactly. Right. This is awesome.
And like some basketball guys will train like, you know, 1 or 2 guys at a time. I'm like, I can't do that. Like, you know, like I need to have a couple things to bounce around and look at too. But it helps you develop this really wide skill set, and you're able to see a lot of different perspectives of it too.
Absolutely.
And then that's where you met your fiance, right?
I did meet my fiance. Yep. So we're getting married next April.
Congratulations.
I appreciate it, brother.
This guy's a stud.
I am. I try my best. Yep. She's gonna be the lawyer though, so she'll be making more than me.
The breadwinner.
She'll be the breadwinner.
That's exactly how it should be.
Exactly. I told her I'll have everything cleaned up at home, everything made, have dinner cooked for all of us. Yeah, it's gonna be awesome. I'm gonna love it.
You and the dogs.
You and the dogs. Yeah. All of us just chilling at home, waiting for mom.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
Okay, so you spoke of like 2 main mentors since you've been here.
Yeah.
Okay, so between Coach Glass and Robbie.
Yeah.
Like, give me 2 lessons that you learned from each of them, the top 2 lessons you learned.
So I think Coach Glass especially was more of just the regimen side of things. Like you can't be showing up late. You can't be dragging yourself into the weight room. Like they're going to look at you, and that's the respect level that they want from you. So they want to make sure that you're instilling, like if I'm coming here half awake, then I'm not going to be able to instill to them that like, okay, we want you fully ready to go. We want you ready to take on the workout. We want you to be getting food after, getting food before, stuff like that. So I think just building character with him was his as well. And then also with him was just giving me the lesson I learned was making sure that I kept my knowledge up, really, just because I was so fresh to this. So like making sure that I studied different teams, studied how their sports worked, studied how their body patterns and everything were. So then when I went into programming, it made it a lot easier for me, because he did a lot of it in the beginning where he was just like, here's the program, study it, learn it, do it. Basically, you didn't really have a say or anything. But then that's where I'll lead into Robbie. When I got to Robbie, he kind of just pushed me like into the water.
Yeah.
Like, he really just
he lets you learn.
He lets you learn. So like that was the biggest thing that I learned from Robbie, was just like he just let you go at it. And then if he's ever like, hey, if you have a problem with the program, if you have anything you're having problems with the coaches or anything like that, just come to me. And then he would help you give more guidance on top of that. But I couldn't thank him enough before, where I felt like I was just like learning under everyone, that I had my own, like finally I had my own thing to do. And then the last thing is just, I think with Robbie was just my overall training philosophy on how we get athletes stronger, how we actually improve their performance, and how they just take care of themselves and make sure that they're always staying healthy. There's a different style of programming with starting strength that just really hit to me. And I just think with how you look at it and how basically strength training is just about force production, like there's just a lot around it. Yes, I do believe there's important accessories. I do injury prevention exercises and stuff with plyos, and then type of sprinting programs and endurance programs that go along with it. But I just think now my philosophy has changed a lot from that, and just how starting strength people, they're because I know we'll talk about it later, but just how they overall just look at training as a whole. Like I think that's the biggest thing of what I've learned from him.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm glad you bring up Starting Strength because, I'm a big believer in their process. And like you said, there's certainly a blend of what you need to do, but it's a really good system, especially for novices who are first starting out.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple just to say, let's just get stronger every session that we have.
Exactly.
But one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the podcast too was to talk about kind of staff outings, right? Or, continuing education groups as, going along with your staff members. And so the preface, and I think the listeners remember this, like my first year hosting the podcast, I went down with Robbie to the Starting Strength seminar. And I think it was a very similar process when we went down this past year with you and James, where, initially, like we were always friends, always cordial, especially me and Robbie, to go down that first year. And then we spent 3 days together going through an airport. You find out stuff about each other, right? Like, awesome. Robbie's terrified of like being late for flights. And so like the funny story with that one is we go down and leading out of Boone where we live, it's like 3 roads and 2 of them only go to the airport. And then one of them was completely shut down. Yeah. And so we had to turn around and, it's just funny to see somebody outside of the context of strength and conditioning all the time. And you spend all this time together. And then like, it was the most I ever laughed up until you and James and I went this past year. And so like, I wanted to bring you on because I just think it's an important lesson for the listeners of like, yes, there's stuff you can do outside of the weight room and at your home location, but like being forced to travel with somebody for 3 days, like I think you can really bring out more sides of friendship and more sides of camaraderie than you could really think. Cause the same process with you, me and James, when we went down, like I always liked you guys, we always got along and everything, but then we spent 3 days together and there's a lot stronger of a bond there after that too. So, how was your experience going down to the Starting Strength seminar?
I personally thought it was awesome. Except for the scare that we had. So we'll tell the listeners about this too. All right.
There's actually a lot of funny stories. This is going to be funny stories about the Starting Strength seminar.
It's going to go on for a while. But so I thought, when Robbie, he ended up having shoulder surgery. So he had to switch out with James. And that's when we let James come with us. And so he had to do a whole different boarding pass, whole different seating and all that kind of stuff. So I thought he was the only one having to do that. And Connor sent me my ticket that I was supposed to register, do everything myself. But I thought Connor already did that for both of us because we already were part of a package. So I was like, oh, it's a package deal. He's already got it handled. Everything's good. So we get there super early, like you said. And I'm sure that from the last year, you were like, all right, let's get there early. Let's get everything situated. So we did. And we've been sitting there for 30 minutes? 30, 45 minutes. And it's only 20 minutes till we're getting on to the actual plane. And I go to look at the ticket thing. I said, I don't see my ticket, Connor. And he's like, did you not download it and do it yourself and register and everything? I was like, oh shoot, no, I didn't know I was supposed to do that. So then I go up to the front desk and I was like, hey, my bad. I thought my one of my other buddies did it for me as well. And she's like, yeah, we can't let you on this plane. And I was like, whoa, we can't. We spent a lot of money on this. We can't do this. Then I grab Connor, comes up with me, and I'm like freaking out. I'm freaking out. We're playing good cop, bad cop, but I was just freaking out. And we've tried multiple times. The lady's just like, no, we can't let you on. You should have done it. It was 30 minutes before you're supposed to get at your
an hour before. You had to check in an hour before.
To check in, and when I didn't check in, so then I'm like, oh my god, I can't believe everyone's gonna leave. I'm gonna have to tell Robbie I didn't make it because I was basically a dumbass. And so then one other person came up. She goes, I got you. Don't worry about it. And we got it. Yeah, it was so cool. I was like, how did we go from absolutely not? I'm there's no way that someone took my spot this early in the morning because it was we left by 6:40 or 7, something like that. Yeah. And I was like, there's no way that someone took my spot. And she's like, no. I was like, all right, cool. Thank God. And we get on. We get there. And the whole experience just leading up to it was great. And then going through the actual seminar with them, like we talked about, was just awesome. And I didn't know what to expect. You guys gave me so much from it last year and told me they're basically hard on you the whole time. They're they'll joke here and there and they'll kind of make fun of you. They're just they're really, really tough. And so we get there and it's just the most laid back seminar I've ever probably been to. But I probably have learned out of all the seminars I've ever gone to, I've learned so much from them. And that's the biggest thing. They do have so much information that they instill in you and you get to do it practically as well. I think that was the biggest part of it. You can go, and I'm not everyone has a USAW. I think I have my USAW and I think it's a great certification, especially if you're wanting to be a coach in the weightlifting world, because that's what I did. A couple of my throwers, it was funny. Nate, he also had his coaching certification. I had mine. So when we'd go compete, I would be his coach. And then when I would compete, he'd be my coach. We'd go back and forth. So if instances like that, I think it's great. But it was probably the easiest thing I've ever done. Probably one of the most expensive certifications. And like, I was like, I can't believe some of the people in that class. I was like, I don't know how they're getting certified to do this.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot of CrossFitters. Like, that's the thing. Like, they just want to get a certification underneath their belt. So if they want to do their own private coaching and stuff like that, that's fine. But I just think there should be a higher standard, and the standard for this certification is super high.
Yeah.
So I respect that. I really am like, okay, now I get it. What you guys are talking about, like they're like, if they step in one time, like you're gonna fail that. You're gonna fail that lift, and if they're helping you coach, you're gonna fail that lift. So like, I know it's honestly just continuous too. Like, you don't really have a time to like breathe, other than when you go back and forth between the presentations and then going to actually do the lifts. I was just like, wow. And like, I didn't go into it. Like, you did the certification and I didn't this year, but I'm going to go do it with you next year. But I think the level of difference between me and you was very high. Like, I was like coming back, I was like, dude, that was awesome. That was sick. I'm having a blast. And Connor's just like, dude, I don't know. This
eat my Dairy Queen.
I'm just
miserable.
Miserable eating your Blizzard. And we're at Dairy Queen, just like, oh crap, dude, I don't know what the heck just happened. Like,
well, so for context for the listeners too, Nick is a big guy, and he's specific. You gained what, 40 pounds? 50. Nick's gained 50 pounds, right? Went full fledged on the starting strength system. I've never seen somebody do it this hard, right? And for a non-athlete, like, a big piece of it is gaining as much weight as possible so that you can lift as much weight as possible.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, mass moves mass. So, exactly. So you go in, you're up 50 pounds, right? And you're lifting like crazy numbers and everything. Yeah. And I'm just as low T as it gets, right? So like, I'm in there nervous about taking the test and everything. And they love Nick. Like, I could only imagine. I don't have a brother, but I could only imagine it would be like if you're the younger brother and the older brother is like in the National Honor Society and like also captain of the football team and everything. And then you're just like a guy who just exists on the side. Cause like, they'd be like, oh, I got Nick you're with is really strong. And I'm like, I know, he's really cool. Right. I'm like, how about me?
Go on.
But to your point too, like, it's such a good certification. And the way I've explained to people not within strength and conditioning, but I think it's important to kind of admit this as well. The strength and conditioning coaches is like, it's really, really hard.
Yeah.
And the people, like, I think about my parents, I've told about this, or Tess, like my wife, like when we talk about these things, they're always like, that seems unnecessarily hard. And it's just like, ultimately, like, why would you not seek out those experiences? Like, why would you not look to do something that makes you, one, nervous because it's probably worthwhile, but then two, like, it's really difficult to actually pass. Like, I failed my first time for the practical exam. Go down, do the practical exam again, and it was still really difficult. I thought I didn't pass again, pass the practical, and then go to take the oral exam like 4 weeks later, 6 weeks later, I think it was, and like, I definitely failed that immediately as well too. But like, and then so I remember like Tess was like, how could you fail? Like, I know you studied so hard for this and everything, and it's just like, I like that. Like, I like having something that's extremely difficult to pass because it means that I'm doing something that's worthwhile, and it's not just a superficial knowledge of like, okay, well, the low bar back squat is better for your knees in this specific scenario because of X, Y, and Z and this anatomy. It's like, no. How would you explain that to like a 5-year-old? Yeah. And then you have to actually know these things to be able to break it down. Yeah. So I really like that experience, and I think it's really good. So it doesn't necessarily have to be the starting strength certification itself, but I do think that strength coaches should seek out things that are really difficult to do. Yeah. Especially later on in your career. Because like you talked about when you first started out as an intern, it's like, very easy, right? It's like, or it's very difficult, when you first start out, like, there's a lot of stuff that makes you question if you want to be a strength coach or not, if you have the knowledge base to be a strength coach or not. Yeah. And then how many times do strength coaches really expose themselves to something like that past the first 1, 2, 3 years, right? And so going into my 7th or 8th year, I don't even know at this point, like going through that process again, like I loved it because I felt like an intern again. Yeah. I felt like I knew nothing. Like that. Yeah. Exactly. And then we had to go through the whole process again too. So, and you're going to go down, you're going to try to certify this upcoming spring. That's awesome.
We're going to get it.
Yeah.
We're going to get it.
And I've got to explain this story as well too. So James Marshak was a former guest on the show actually about a year and a half ago, I think at this point. And so James is like, he's a skinnier guy, right? But he put on 20 pounds? Yeah. James gained some weight.
85,
yeah. And he definitely got a lot stronger and everything, but he's a goofy, you want to talk about goofy dudes? Yeah, like he's a goofy dude. And so like this process is very difficult, right? And like, part of what makes it fun is like they rip you apart if you ask questions. Like they just totally destroy you. And so then at the end, you have to ask a question. So like you can't, they literally go like one by one. They're like okay,
Q&A.
Nick, James, Robbie, 2 hours straight. And so some people are asking terrible questions.
Outlandish shit, and it doesn't make any sense.
I'm like, bro, please don't ever ask that again.
Move on.
And so then they get to me. I don't even remember. I think I asked like, because they're not big proponents of technology and everything. And I was like, would you ever want to do research with it to prove that your system would be better than other systems that you've seen?
Yeah.
And they were basically said no.
No, we don't care.
And so then they get to James, and James goes to ask his question. And I like was told James, I was like, dude, keep it low key. Like, just get out of here, right? Because it's the last thing that we do. And so then James goes to ask this question. He's like, so I tore my tricep. Or no, it was he talked about bench press. Yeah. He talked about, he's like my bench press delays and everything. And I really struggled to push through that, like what's some advice that you have? And the coach that certified him for bench press was like, because your technique sucks. And then I was like, all right, dude, just wrap it up there. Like it's over. Don't worry about it. Yeah. And of course he doesn't leave it. And he's like, well, I tore my tricep a couple, years ago. And like, I think that's part of the problem and everything. Yeah. And so then they make, they go, well, first of all, they go, who told you tore your tricep?
That was after we got like through it. We talked about how like the exercise science.
Yes.
About, like,
every single thing. Yeah. Yes. And so he goes, who told you that you tore your tricep? And he's like, a couple of my buddies. And I'm just like, no, stop. No. Like literally, you can't grab the shovel out of this guy's hands. Like he's just digging deeper. And so then he goes, well, a couple of my buddies like, who are your buddies? And he's like, well, like exercise science students and everything. And they go, oh my God. And so then they go, all right, well, stand up and flex for us. And I forgot which one he tore at this point, which arm. It was right arm and left arm. Yeah. And so he goes, stands up, and he shows off his right arm, and then like really proud, he stands up. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can see it. Like he stands up, he's like, right. And they're like, okay, looks pretty good, And then he goes to his left one, and he goes to flex it again, and he kind of, flexes it, and like it's like, all right, so you can see it's torn. They're like, yeah, that one looks pretty good.
Yeah, also normal. I guess like they both look exactly alike.
Like, so I don't think you tore your tricep, and I think your technique sucks on bench press. And it was the most.
We're just like,
it's silent.
Looking at him like, dude,
stop, please. And so it was just a silent ride home up until he tried to say that he was 6 feet tall.
Oh yeah,
and I was like, bro, no shot. We literally stopped on the side of the road to prove that he wasn't 6 feet tall. But again, like to me, like there's two lessons learned with the starting strength stuff, which is one is, ultimately, you should do things that are really difficult and challenge you to be a better coach, and not just in your internship experience. You should continue to do these things. And it makes me think back to one of the mentors I had who was, he was a professor I had, but he was a CSCS, AT, PT, and was getting his CMPC for sports psych as well too. Like he was just like a forever learner and always wanted to do these things. Yeah. And I think it's cool because it just exposes you to all these different areas, but all those things are really difficult to get. And so ultimately, like you should continue to do difficult things, but then too, like I felt it was just a really good experience to bond with the rest of the staff. Yeah. And just, be able to get to know each other better as
100%,
well.
Yeah. 100%. I agree with that. Like you said, like when we came back, I was like, oh dude, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing this weekend? Or like, yeah, you want to go train together again. Like it just felt like we were different, and it was awesome. So definitely builds the relationship better.
So I'm excited to go back again this spring. It'll be fun. Yeah. Hopefully we can get James.
Alejandro there too.
Yeah. Alejandro. Yeah. There's a dude who fell asleep like 4 times during it.
We're like, oh gosh. And like between the lift.
Yeah.
We were power cleaning.
Yeah. We were power cleaning. Broke down one section. He sat down and
neck back.
Seconds,
Or he's like this. He just keeps going like this.
Yeah. You can't do the nod.
Yeah.
Looked like me in AP chemistry in high school.
Like, dude, at least. I remember when they came back and they were just like, go grab a cup of coffee.
Go grab some coffee.
Go grab some coffee. Like they literally came by.
If they did that to me, I'd be walking.
I'd be like, I'm just gonna go.
I'm gonna leave now. Thanks. Appreciate the experience.
Yeah.
So. But yeah, it's an awesome experience. I couldn't recommend it enough. And for the listeners, I couldn't recommend enough finding something that's going to continue to challenge you and force you to be better. Okay. So, okay. So now we're going into your second year of full-time strength and conditioning. Yep. And obviously working with a little bit of different teams as well too. Like going into your second year, what are the things that you're looking to improve? What are your goals for the second year?
Yeah. So just building the new relationships, I think, with the coaches, the ATs, the PTs, making sure that I have that now, that new trust with them. Because once I work with my old teams, like field hockey, we live and die by it. Like they think I'm the best that's been for the past 4 or 5 years with them. So they always thank me and stuff like that. And we have such a good bond. And me and their AT, their previous AT as well, also had a fantastic relationship. So I just think collaboration and building a new relationship, especially with the new teams, and then also just understanding the sports like fully. Like I want to go to their practices. I want to go to their matches. I want to go do things with them, specifically get on the field, do their practices with them, just to see how their bodies move, how the sport moves. So whenever it will reflect my programming on them as well, and making sure that they're improving their performance, but staying healthy too. Because like there's certain things I probably can't do with one team that I can't do with the other. Just making sure that I'm just building my ideology between both of them, and just knowing the types of specifics that I need for each of the sports.
Yeah, and you've had a lot of success with field hockey.
Yeah, so 2 regular season championship rings.
Yeah,
so hopefully we'll go back for a 3rd this year.
That's
so
awesome.
Awesome. Yeah, we've been doing really good with recruiting. So I'm excited for the new people that are coming in for us as well.
And so what do you attribute that success to? When you look at the field hockey team, you look at the program, what do you think allows them to be successful?
So I had no clue about like how field hockey even works.
Yeah.
Like when I first got there and I went to it, and it was one of the funny things I'll go on that is I thought the ball itself was like a little bit harder than a lacrosse ball.
Yeah.
So I thought it still was like a little rubbery. They smacked one to the sideline where I was standing with the AT, and I played baseball. So I just go to like infield and field it. Dude, I feel this thing and I thought it shattered my hand. And then I like just nonchalantly just go, and I turn around, I'm like, that hurts so bad. So then I was like, all right, so this is totally different than I thought. And once I go into it, I just basically what I like to do, especially for like an endurance sport, I sat there actually with time watch, and I sat there with a clipboard, and I was like, all right, so how long does it take for them to get to this point of the field? And the biggest thing that I was concerned when I first got with them was just building my conditioning programs, because I'd never done cheer. I really didn't have to do anything with that. And like with Coach Glass, I really worked with, I actually did field hockey early on with him, but he did all of it. So I just based off all the agility plans that he did. We did 300s and stuff. So it wasn't like super long endurance training, but they didn't really they like it, but they wanted more. And then I worked with volleyball, and then I worked with wrestling, and actually the baseball team with the GAs and stuff. But they did all the programming. I kind of just got it here and there and stuff like that. So I just wanted to build my own type. And that's where I just dove in. And I actually went to the Duke Performance Clinic this past year. And I think it was in January. And they had a lot of stuff, because I had to work with Connexon for one of my technologies that I use. And it's a GPS system. If people don't know, it's a GPS system that tracks like basically the total load of their distance, their top speeds, change of direction. And then I'm trying to think all the stuff I specifically look at, but just making sure that I'm like managing their overall training load in practice and in games. So I'm trying to build right now an athlete management system for them. That'll be on a Google Sheets or an Excel, basically, that tracks all the players to see how much they're doing during the week and then how much they're going to do on the weekend. And this past year, I was able to run it for the full year. So I got to see what the in-season looked like, and I got to see what the off-season looked like in terms of practice. And the coaches love it, because if we do, like, say, for the players that are doing more subbing and not getting in as much, just making sure we're doing top-off running at the end of practice. So stuff like that I'm just not destroying them at the end of practice, because they practice for 2.5 hours as well. So I don't want to be like, all right, you're already getting, let's say, 3-4 miles within practice. Like, how much do I actually need to do for the top-off running? That's just going to simulate what you would have done in the game. So I just think building those systems, and I think just how I've worked with them, especially too, just like fully like breaking down the program to them. I think they respect that the best. We do weekly meetings. I think the biggest thing you can do with your coaches is have weekly meetings with them. Always keep them in the loop and never try to do anything underneath their nose that they don't know about.
Yeah.
So just making sure everything's out in front, keeping it fully transparent with them. And if you don't agree with them, just tell them why you don't agree. Like, that's the thing. Like, you don't have to just gotta be like, okay, I'm taking it all. I think it is very important for strength coaches to put the foot down sometimes, because we go to school for this. We get certifications for this. We know what we're talking about, and we're specialists within it. So like, if I can tell them and convince them to be like, hey, this is why I think this needs to be in the program. This is why I think it's going to better your athletes. They're going to be on board with it. Now, if they have a slightly different philosophy towards it, yeah, we can work around that. Like, I can compromise with them, and I can make sure that it does what I want, it does what you want. And now we get both the best of both worlds. And now they're going to be better once they get back on the field. And then we have a 30-15 run test. And I think this is where I pride myself on. For the past 2 years, 2.5-ish, when I worked with a little bit with the GA, they've completely passed. It's coming from summer. I hadn't seen them in months. And then we do one in the summer. That'll decide if they play. They can do it again after if they fail. But we had to do it like that one time I was GAing with them. I think some people had to run it like 3 or 4 times just to be able to play. That's the thing. You don't pass it, you can't play. So that's like an immediate thing that like coach was on, like, hey, they have to pass their 30-15. And she was like headstrong on it. I was like, all right, well, there's one focus that I need to be in. My first priority on this team is to make sure that they're fully conditioned, they're ready to go, and they're ready to tackle their sport. Because that's the thing. I don't want it to just become a thing where we have to just focus on this test just for you to go play. like you need to play too.
Yeah.
Like you need to do your skills. You need to do your practice. Like this shouldn't be just on top of that another stressor for those athletes to worry about. So I went deep into research. I went on a bunch of articles. I went over a lot of the stuff where I learned at that Duke Performance Clinic, especially this past year, just to tweak a couple of things that I was, they said I was doing really well with the management system and everything that I was already tracking within it for the GPSs, but just making sure that I provided them a great summer packet program and making sure that they stayed conditioned. Is when we get back, there's only like 2-3 weeks before we're like right into season, and like we're going. Because that's where she's like, if we got to run it 3-4 times with someone, they might be running it in the middle of their season. Like we can't be doing that. You know what I'm saying? Like we need subs. And then like that's the thing about that I didn't realize with field hockey. Ice hockey, yeah, they sub and stuff, but you can stay on, typically they'll stay on a little bit longer. And same with soccer. Soccer doesn't sub as much. We sub like frequently.
Yeah.
And like the thing is, it could be when you're subbing too, is you're like freaking 50 yards to run over to a next person. So you got to account just for that. So just to get out and then rest for only 2 minutes before you go back in, you're on a dead sprint just to get out for a sub. So that's where I was just trying to make sure I'm tracking total distance, because I'm like, if these two are bouncing off each other, subbing back and forth, I'm watching their game and I'm like, okay, they ran a little bit in the game, but then like no one thinks about how much they were actually running back and forth between themselves in terms of their total load on their body when they were doing that just to sub out so they could play with each other. So I think that was a big contributor, is making sure this past 2 years, everyone's passed the 30-15 that have been with them every single year. So making sure that they are getting what they need in their program. And that's the thing too. We have a lot of internationals, and that's what I'm always scared about. If you ever work with internationals, you have to stay on top of them. If you do not stay on top of them, they will never listen to you. They will not care. They will just basically show up, because when they're at least from what I've heard from the ones that I've worked with, is that they basically go home and they don't do a lot of strength training. Yeah. Like, and we have a lot of Netherlands, Germany. We had some Belgians. And then we had a couple of them from Spain. And like what they'll do, they might do some small stuff and it's more body weight focused, more circuit focused, more band focused, stuff like that. But that's why they come here. And then the biggest thing also you have to think about with your international athletes is that the food's a lot different here. And what I struggle with them, or like what I've had multiple meetings with the AT, or their head coaches and stuff, is just making sure they're staying fully nourished. And in America, at least, because when they come here, they're not used to our food at all. And they don't really like our food. And it's hard to replicate what they have back there since there's no preservatives. It's normally a lot more fresh and stuff. And their recipes are not usually made by them. They're usually like a big family thing. They're normally, it's like they come home, they have like 10 people ready to eat, and they're having a blast together and have great food and stuff like that from their mom, dad, siblings, parents, whoever's making the dinner and stuff. So they don't have that here, and they're usually freshmen. So then they're like in the dorms by themselves. They're like, I have no clue what to do. I can't cook for myself. I can't go out and get something that I like. So they'll usually lose a lot of weight in the beginning.
Vitamin deficiencies and everything.
Yeah, a lot of nutritional deficiencies. So just making sure you stay on top of them with that. That's where I was talking about with the biggest of the buy-in and the trust. Like if I can buy their trust and get them really into it, and they're like, okay, maybe I'm not going to have them do a low bar back squat. But if they can train in an efficient way that's going to keep them healthy over this time that they're here with me, that's like my overall goal. Making sure they're staying healthy and improving their performance, and making sure that they're able to still do what they would do at home, because they usually go home, play club, do all that kind of stuff, and they'll come back. So usually they'll stay good for the conditioning aspect. Then I'm not usually worried about that over the summer, but then they usually just drop lifting, and then they come back. And what will happen, especially for the new ones, stress fractures, the stress reaction, stuff like that happens so frequently with internationals, because they're not giving their body enough nutrition. So they're lacking in that. And then they've never done any type of strength training. They're just basically falling apart. So just making sure I stay on top of that. And I think that's what I did with the past 2 years with the internationals. I got them all to buy in. They've been fantastic in the training programs. They've really bought into my conditioning, bought into my strength training stuff. So I think that the coach recognized that, and it was just like, this is awesome. Like I've never seen, they come in in the mornings. They usually rotate. So there's 3 coaches on the team. They'll each like one coach will come Monday and Wednesday, and another coach will come Tuesday and Thursday, or like whatever our schedule is for that day. And they'll rotate through the head coach and the assistant coaches coming through. And they're always like, wow, look at her. She's like doing so well. And I'm just so happy to hear that, because at first it's like, sometimes they're just like, and I don't want to say like in the past, what I saw as an intern, sometimes coaches just are like, I don't want to deal with that. They just kind of leave them like in their own little corner. They don't care as much as they would for the ones that are obviously starting and stuff like that. And they're like, okay, I don't have a language barrier with them or something like that as well. And they just kind of lose their level of care with me. I'm like, these are like my number one. Like I'm having them all in one area, and I'm watching that area for like at least like 60 or 70% of the time, because I know my other ones that are obviously upperclassmen and stuff like that, they know the program. And that's the biggest thing I instill with that within the athletes as well, is like, hey, keep an eye on them. Like, make sure they're doing their work. Make sure you're holding them accountable too, because if they want to be in the position that you are by the time they get to your position as a junior and senior, then they got to do the same thing you did as well. So if they are just going to do their own thing, do kind of slack off and all like that, you've seen it. I've seen it. It's just like, they're not going to get to that level. Yeah. And they're not going to have the respect from the other players. I think that's the biggest thing too. If you want to get the captain spot, like, you can't just like nonchalantly work your way there. You can be the best player on the team. I don't give a damn. You can be the best player on the team, but if you don't care and you don't show the level of care that the rest of them are doing, and they got themselves by working hard, then it's never going to happen.
Matters a lot more.
Yeah, exactly.
It's interesting because we almost see, when you work with female athletes at internationals, I see that a lot. Mm-hmm. Now, when we work with male athletes at international, you almost see the exact opposite. Problem, right?
I've never worked with them. Sorry.
Yeah. Because like, we get guys come in sometimes. Like, we had an athlete come in from Switzerland, and I was like, okay, what's your favorite food to eat from Switzerland, right? And he's like, I can't remember the name of it, but he was like, it's just meat and you melt a bunch of cheese over it. I was like, sounds awesome.
Sounds awesome.
Like, that's a problem.
That's the problem.
That's your favorite food. We got a lot of that over here.
We got a lot of that
over here. So they get to these dining halls, and it's like, so you mean I can get a full pizza for free?
Yeah.
You know, this is not a problem. So it's almost funny because it's almost the opposite side of things, where they get too into the kind of fast food culture that we have over here. So it's very different. But,
it's very different.
But I love the points that you bring up with field hockey. Like, there's a lot of things that go into the success, and obviously the coaching is a huge piece of it. And then to have you as a strength coach so invested, it makes a big difference, and it makes it way more fun.
It does.
Like,
it actually does.
When you can buy into this stuff and we can be with the team for multiple years in a row, it's really, really fun.
Yeah. They suited me up in the goalie gear and just had a day. And I was out there just like, just take it.
Thanks for that.
Like, all right, I appreciate it. I was like, all right, guys, if you had any problem with me this year, go ahead and take it out. Take it out right now. This is the only time I'm letting you.
Dude, those field hockey balls are good.
I'm telling you, dude. Even with the gear on, they'll hit you.
Yeah. Because I saw somebody get smoked in the face one time, and that was not okay.
Yeah,
I was like, you
scary.
need medical attention.
Oh, yeah, it's scary. Yeah, it's definitely. And it's like the swinging and everything, too. Like, when they get close, especially within the 25, and they get in that inner circle.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. Like, you'll just see some people, like, because they can do, like, backhand shots and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And they're not even looking sometimes. They're just ready to, because the biggest thing with that is just getting as close to the goal as you can, because you want to kind of ricochet it, kind of like how hockey is and everything. But when they do that, I'm like, I'm like waiting. I'm like, I'm like telling people to get out, like, don't get hit in the face by a stick. Like, it's crazy.
Or, bro, like a penalty shot?
Oh, yeah. Penalties.
Like when they all line up behind the goal and they all have to gear up.
Yeah.
Like, it's insane.
Yeah, dude, they got hand gear on, face gear, everything.
It's an intense sport. I love it, though.
It is.
I mean, and like you said, you guys have seen a ton of success.
Yeah.
Being regular season champions back to back is huge.
Yeah.
And it's very cool. And that's one of the things I like about App State, too, is we've got some unique sports that we're really good at.
Oh, right? Yeah, for sure.
Like wrestling is what been SoCon champions, like every single year for the past 8,000 years, at this point. Yeah. And then cross country winning the Sun Belt, too. Like, the Olympic sports here are really cool, and I think they're really fun to work with.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. I don't think I would ever really want to get into football.
No. Football it takes a very specific type of person.
Yeah, it's a different breed. I mean, like I said, I like to, obviously I want to have the respect level for my athletes. I get on them, I yell and stuff like that. But like, I just don't think you can have that like different kind of bond with them as well. It's like, I think football is like, you get in there and you scream at them, and like, you get after them and stuff like that, and they'll respect you and you'll have fun with them sometimes. But I just think with this, and like you said, working with so many different teams, you get to just build different relationships with them as well.
Yeah, for sure.
And you get to see the different type of people they are as well. Like, that's why I like the internationals. Like, I hear things and I learn things from them, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like, I didn't know you guys did that. Like, most of my internationals, I mean, obviously they don't have cars here and stuff like that because you got to live a certain amount of years, but they just walk and bike everywhere. And like, I'll see them like just biking or walking around here, and I'm like, do you ever want to get and like invest in a car or something? They're like, no, like, this is what it is like back at home. Yeah. And I'm like, no wonder they're so good. No wonder I don't have to worry about their conditioning. It's because they're literally probably walking 5-10 miles just to get home. And I'm like, this is wild.
Yeah, like Nico, one of our kids from Germany. He's like, I'll just walk. Yeah. It'll be 5 miles. No,
I'm like, walks everywhere. I'm like, oh, interesting.
But I think you bring up a good point about football. It works the most for former football players because it's a lot of the culture too. Like I remember for a recruiting visit, like the same mentor I mentioned who was talking to me about coaching 3 racks at the same time. Yeah, he told me when I first started off, like, I only hire former football players, and he was 100% correct because the job came open. I thought I was going to get it. Nope. No. I played high school football, but collegiate.
No, yeah.
And so we did a recruiting visit one time, and he was like going through. He was like, "This is Byron Gerardo, former Chargers player, right?" And then AJ Artist, and then I go through all these guys, and then he goes, and then we've got Connor, fullback at Colgate University. And then I was like, all right, man, whatever. All right, cool. Like, he's like, I only hire football players. And then literally after that recruiting visit, somebody came up to me and was like, dude, Colgate. I remember at Colgate, like, do you know my brother? And I was like, dude, he's the man. Like, he's so cool.
It's so cool.
Okay, so my final question for you,
Yeah.
is what are you sitting at right now, body weight?
245.
Are you getting to 250?
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm gonna try. If I can get to 260, I want to so bad. But
How's
my fiance,
Elizabeth feel about
so
that?
that's the thing. My fiance is just like, I think she hasn't. I mean, she loves it. She loves like I'm more like a teddy bear now.
Yeah,
Like, she's
yeah.
like, you're not like. I'm not gonna lie. When I did the CrossFit and stuff,
Dude,
like
you were
that,
shredded.
I was shredded. Like
Yes.
I washboard and all that kind of stuff. And she's like, I was like this hard. Like my body was just so hard.
Yeah.
Now I'm just like it's like a teddy bear.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
all fluffed up. So she really likes it. And I just think what I need to get into more is just like doing it in a healthier way. Like I obviously gained 50 pounds in 3 months. Not a very healthy way of doing it, but I did it. And I'm strong. I'm healthy. Like now, like overall in the weight training side of things. But that's where like recently the past 3 weeks, I do 2 stadiums every single day. And then that's what I'm going to go do right after this. And then I'll do like tempos on the field and I do sprint work too. I did men's softball league this past summer too. So it's like, I'm trying to get my little bit of cardio aspect. She's like, as long as you stay making sure your heart and everything is good. Because it was actually, we went back for Father's Day and there's a local ice cream shop that's downtown. I'm in Birkenstock, shorts and t-shirt. And then we're walking downtown. It's like not even half a mile yet. And I'm fighting for my life. I'm like pouring sweat. I'm like breathing hard. I'm like, I can't believe I'm this bad. Like, this is horrible.
Yeah.
And it was just so funny because I went so far on the spectrum before when I was doing CrossFit. I was running 5 miles 5 days a week. I was doing rucksacks. I was doing rucks on the weekend. I was doing anywhere between 5 and 12 miles on the weekend, finding places up here in Boone, going on really hard, like the knob. I did the knob like 10 times before that.
Yeah.
And then we did like Murph, one of my buddies, he's actually in the nursing corps now in the Army. But we did the Murph every 2 weeks, the entire summer.
Yeah.
So it's like going from that spectrum. And I think she saw that early on, obviously. And she's just like, you were just like so fit. And so like because that's her type of training. She likes to run. She likes to do circuit stuff. She likes to do like kettlebell, all that kind of thing, more CrossFit-ish. And once I got into this, she's just like, all right, well, you can do that. You can gain the weight. And then also I think that for her is just like with a purpose. Like if I signed up for a powerlifting meet right now, she'd be like, oh, this is totally okay. Like it's fine. Like you need to be heavier so that you can lift more weight when you go to the powerlifting meet. And I'm like, oh, if that's it, I'm like, dude, I just need to go sign up for like one meet every like 4 months or something. I'll be fine. And then we're locked in. So no, I just think of it as, and the people that are trying to gain weight, yes, you can do it for so long, but I mean, it's just for longevity of it. I just noticed things that just wasn't good with myself too. Like I just want to make sure that I'm obviously I don't want to croak over at 70 years old. You know what I'm saying? It's like I want to be longevity, like especially when we started looking to have kids and stuff like that, settle down and everything. I just want to make sure that I'm not just going to be some like deadbeat by the time I'm 50 and I'm just overweight. And
stuff hurts a lot more.
It does. That's what I was about to say. Walking upstairs, everything. Like when I started the stadiums, I was like, oh my God.
Dude, my heaviest at 285, like I would stand up and I wasn't strong. I would just stand up, my knees just from not moving for 30 minutes. I'm like, bro, I got to oil these puppies up. Like,
and that's where another thing for all listeners is that when you're a strength coach, you're on your feet probably at least 7 hours, 6-7 hours a day.
Yep.
So, and you get about 20 to 30,000 steps a day as well. So like you don't want to be carrying around 260 pounds unfit and just being like, this sucks. Like it's like I was there. My sciatic's starting to light up, my back's lighting up, my knees hurt, my ankles, my feet hurt. Developed plantar fasciitis.
And I'm 24.
I'm 25 years old, bro. Like what the heck? I'm fighting for my life. So I think just doing it in a good regimen. I mean, you got a dirty ball get sometimes. I got to my goal. I went to that meeting. Like I said, we went to the seminar and they were like, this guy's a beast. This guy's a beast. And I was like, this is all I wanted because they tell you there, if you're less than 200 pounds, you're less of a man.
Yeah, exactly.
So I was like, I'm going to take it to the extreme and actually get 40 pounds heavier than I want to be when I get there.
So you did it and it worked.
I did it and it worked. Yeah. Lifted great. So.
All right. So we're going to have you back on the podcast. You'll be 300.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I'm going to keep pushing the limit until I can't. Yeah.
So. Just minor heart attack.
Minor. Yeah. I might just be like, all right. Keep working, keep ticking.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Awesome. Yeah, I appreciate you seriously. For your Instagram, what would be a good way for listeners to follow you?
It's Nick DaCosta 02, I believe.
I think so. Yeah. Let's pull it up. This is the beauty of doing a live episode. We can pull it up right now.
Let me just look at that. I don't ever actually look at my chain. Yeah, Nick DaCosta 2. So it's DACOSTA 2.
MSCSCS USAW level 1, baby.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Well, I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Great to see you guys.
Yeah.